Hello, people. Andrew here, talking about comics from a reader, collector, speculator, investor point of view. Today I'm looking at the Fantastic Four, Volume 4. Ran from 2013 to 2014, primarily written by Matt Fraction and illustrated by Mark Bagley. Ran for 16 issues. So, right off the bat, I got a couple of questions I got to ask. When did the Fantastic Four become so associated with time travel? I know that in very early on, I mean, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, they did some time travel stories in that first 100 block. But there was also, I mean, the Galactus trilogy, no, there's no time travel there. Visiting the Black Panther in Wakanda, no, I don't remember there being time travel. Even going to the negative zone, no, that's not time travel. That's just a different parallel dimension type of thing. But time travel seems to be the default cause for a lot of Fantastic Four books moving forward from 2010 forward. The other question is okay, so it's kind of a two part because I don't know the answer, right? Is it, uh, you know, it, do today's writers or the writers of that time, 15 years ago, which are still today's writers, is that is that the only way they know how to tell a science fiction story is to involve time travel and alternate dimensions? Is or are they so enamored with time travel and alternate that they want to join that parade? I don't know the answer to that, but here we go. 2013 2014 16 issue. uh, Matt Fraction. Time travel, yes, for the third time in a row. Okay, so what's it about? Well, obviously it's going to involve time travel. The idea is that Reed has got himself some sort of disease that he finds in his arm that's sort of deteriorating his elasticity. His powers are being corrupted by this sort of infection. He's not sure exactly what the cause is, and far be it from him to consult with any of the other scientists on Earth. Instead, he decides that what he needs to do is because the science is not here on Earth to solve this mystery, that he must do a journey into other planes, other through the solar system, other planets. To try and find the solution to his illness. An illness that he believes is going to continue on through the rest of the Fantastic Four. The cosmic powers that gave them their powers is also the cause of this disease. But he doesn't share that information with them. He just tells them, hey, let's go on a field trip, bring the kids, we'll learn a little bit about history and about the solar system. That's the premise he goes on. So they begin their journey, leaving behind the rest of the Future Foundation into a with another group, and that becomes a separate book that runs parallel to this, much like the last series did. But I haven't read that particular series of FF Future Foundation. But it does run parallel to this one, and because the Fantastic Four has to recruit four members to replace them while they're gone on their little journey. So that's the basic premise. The looking for a cure is the excuse to go out there, and we have to find the cure. Um, but there's other aspects about this story. I mean, that's the crux of what the story is about. But before I go into whether or not I recommend it or not, there are a couple of things that I do need to talk about. First, we'll talk about the art because it's done by Mark Bagley throughout, and people may love Mark Bagley stuff. I'm not one of those people. I don't really dislike. I don't actively dislike his material. I like what he did on the Ultimate Spider-Man, and I find it's not quite up to the same level here in the Fantastic Four, but it's not bad. I just have some problem with his eyes. He makes eyes like the size of saucers. They're like one step removed from bulging out of the head. And all of these big eyed characters just, it doesn't work quite well. And that's part of his style, and that's fine. And it's just not something that I'm particularly enamored with. I also think he has problems with kids. Often the images of Franklin or Valeria really look just like a stick figure with a big melon head. It just they look so awkward and out of proportion. So The artwork doesn't elevate the book for me, but it doesn't downgrade it either. It's just there. He still has a good sense of drawing action and composition and what have you. Just the big eyes and the big head thing for the children just threw me off a bit. So that's the artwork. As far as the story, it's a pinball time machine. It's just like, like let's join Reed and his zany cast as we go careening through time and alternate realities and different planets. And we're going to go to the beginning of time. We're going to go to the end of time. We're going to get lost in time. We're going to run into alternate future versions of ourselves. And we're going to run into one of them that's going to tell us that there's something good going to happen or there's something bad going to happen. But I can't tell you which until it happens. Okay. So it does do all of those things, and it includes other aspects. There's a council of dooms in here. Again, and that's not like 5 or 6 different people that all have like the idea of having a doomed world. It's just actual Doctor Dooms. So once again, let's draw a bunch of dooms from alternate realities and bring them in for another council, because that's what we need, is yet another council of a character. So we have a council of dooms show up in here. The best I can say about the story is the characterization. It is good characterization. Reed, unfortunately, hasn't learned anything from lessons past because he hides this information about the fact that they may be deteriorating until it becomes evident that they're deteriorating. And it's like, I didn't want to panic you. I'm sorry. This is the team that went up against Galactus. These are the people that have faced death and even experienced it numerous times. And you're going to say, I didn't want to panic you about, you could be wasting away from this disease. I'm sorry. If I've got, an illness or something like that, tell me about it so that I can do something positive about it. So he didn't learn anything from the past when he said, I'm going to change my ways and I'm going to be honest and I'm going to tell you all of these things, because he doesn't. And rightfully so, the team, gets pissed off with him, especially his daughter Valeria. He says, you're a bad man. You're a bad dad. And he is. That's a bad thing. So he doesn't learn from the past, but there is still some characterization and character development. There's an interesting story when it talks again about how his first meeting with Sue. Different. I mean, they've changed it as it went along, but they keep sort of the similar tone of what was going on. And he's got a lot. It shows his devotion and love for Sue, but I think it's his version. Because he doesn't, as I say, he doesn't share this with Sue. He, at one point in time, well, no, that's a Johnny thing, but I mean, he treats her as a secondary citizen sometimes because he doesn't want to worry her or worry anybody else. But anyways, it was a decent look into Reed's mentality about Sue, so that was a positive. The goodbye scene in issue 2, when they're off to go on their adventure and actually, they're not sure exactly if they're going to make it back. You don't often see that in these books. So they just go out on the adventure. That was interesting. That was an interesting bit of characterization. So I did like that as well. So I can't fault the characterization. I find that the pinball time machine, it just went all over the place. I'm not really crazy about going to the beginning of time, end of time, alternate version of people. And as far as the resolution of what is this disease and how is it cured, I don't think that this particular story stuck the landing at all. I think it was a very cheap ending and unsatisfactory. Overall, though, so do I recommend the book? Well, it sounds like I'm saying no, but if you're a Fantastic Four fan, it's all right. And you'll read it because you want to read the whole history of the Fantastic Four, which is why I read it, and it's all right. For somebody who has never read the Fantastic Four or wants to be introduced to them, as I say, good characterization so you can see who the characters are. They do work well together as a team, so that's a positive. But once again, it's all right. If somebody wants to have a great story, they don't care if it's Fantastic Four or Batman or whatever. They just want to read a great story. That's where I would say no. That doesn't fall into this category at all, or that category. It's not a great story. It's all right. So let's go through some of these books. Is there a collector, speculator, investor point of view? Is there anything there? I will say this: it's 16 issues, and actually it's 17, but I'll get to that one. It's all not, well, it's like dollar bin material. Yeah, you could find this stuff in the dollar bin. There's nothing here to warrant any kind of speculation or investment. You're basically going to be collecting this for the Fantastic Four. Maybe you're a Matt Fraction reader, and so you want to collect everything that he's done, or Mark Bagley. Maybe you're interested in Dooms, or I was going to say alternate versions, but like it seems like you can't help but walk and trip over an alternate version of somebody. It used to be an interesting concept. Now it's just like commonplace, like going out and buying a loaf of bread. Disappointing. Let it go. Let it go. You know, these things will happen. Let them go. There's some stuff there. Medusa shows up in one, and Ant-Man's in there, and She-Hulk, and there's a couple of little spots here, but really there's nothing here other than collecting it for pretty much your Fantastic Four collection. That's why you would buy this. And as I say, the story is just all right. That's issue number 1. And issue number 2. Issue number 2 is the goodbye issue where they take off into space, and I did like it. I thought that was interesting, where they said goodbye to various people and showed again more characterization. And to me, it was like, okay, I don't like the fact that Reed's hiding this because he hasn't learned anything, but at least we're getting some characterization. And the characterization pretty much stayed there for the whole thing. So. These are just the covers. They go different locales. At first, it seems like they're going to different planets in space, not through time. They're going to different actual planets through space. One of the things about these planets that they go to and visiting these different races is, who cares? I don't mean. I mean, they're not being cataloged anywhere. Chances are we'll never go back to this planet. So. You can just do anything. I mean, these planets are interchangeable. Give me a planet that's worth visiting a second time. Or create one and then start developing one that is worth it. This is the one about Reed's affection for Sue, where he does all kinds of things that are so just... They're kind of wrong from a scientific point of view, but it does show his love and devotion to Sue. This is the one where I said that there were 16, possibly 17, because this is not actually issue number 5. This is, you can see it down here. It says 5AU. Now, when I was first buying all this sort of stuff, I was just getting back into buying, and I wanted to, read these Fantastic Four. I just thought it was an alternate cover, and I said, I only need one. I don't need 2 covers. But there's actually 2 issues. There's a 5, which I don't have, and a 5AU. The 5AU is Age of Ultron. The 5 is the one that would normally go in this run, so I have to pick that one up. But the AU, Age of Ultron, okay, again, when I picked this up and I was just going through this reading again recently, and I got to issue number 5, I said, what? Because the artwork was different and the storyline was out of place of what they were doing. The tone had shifted. And I'm reading and realized that, when they were creating the event, the Age of Ultron, they decided that Fantastic Four need to be part of that. So let's create a little twist in their book, because they're way out in the middle of space somewhere where they can zip back to the Earth so they can take part in the Age of Ultron and then zip back to their ship. So this is that zippy point where they go from their ship out in space to being part of the Age of Ultron. I don't know. I mean, I get it. There's, you're the editors at B, the powers that say that we want to include everybody so that, that they'll reach out to a greater audience, people who have not heard of the Fantastic Four before. If they're interested in the Age of Ultron, they will get a chance to see the Fantastic Four. So I understand that. But from a story point of view, they should have just left them alone. The whole idea of the Second Future Foundation was the Earth always is going to need a Fantastic Four. So we need to have you four be surrogates for us while we're away so that you will be representative of the Fantastic Four. Well, Age of Ultron, we need a Fantastic Four. Where the heck are the surrogates? That's, it's like, but I guess it was like all hands on deck, whoever you are, and they managed to zip their way out of wherever they were and then zip back. So this is sort of standing outside of issue number 5. I don't know what issue 5 is all about. And it just goes on. It just goes on. More of, eventually, as they say, they run into other characters from different timelines. They run into a Doom from the past, the present, the alternate future. They're a pinball time machine. They go beginning of time, end of time, lost in time. They need somebody from time to save them. And, one of the characters from the alternate future knows that they're going to be saved, but doesn't know how or when or until it happens. Reminds me of, in that, I haven't read the book, but I have seen the film Mystery Men, where Mr. Invisible, he's only invisible if you don't look at him. That seems to be what I feel about these future guys. I'll only be able to tell you what happens when it happens. Well, that's a great benefit. So there you go. There you go with your Council of Dooms. There was some nice stuff about Ben Grimm. I mean, he visits Yancey Street in the past, and again, because they flip flop all over the place. Why not visit Yancey Street in the past while you're trying to cure your debilitating illness? So there are. We got Skrulls, we got Doom. We don't have any. Annihilus and Kang show up as well, but again, sort of a future twisted version of these characters. So there's no real superhero type of villain and superhero conflict happening. I mean, they do. I mean, the Skrulls are a villain, sure, but this is all happening out there in different times and in different spaces, and how much of it is like real, or if it's just like, as I say, alternate futures, alternate pasts. It seems to me that at one point in time, these books were concerned about the butterfly effect. Don't mess this thing up because the butterfly effect is going to change all kinds of conditions far into the future. They just don't seem to care about that anymore. Just, when it will have an effect? Well, when they need it to have an effect. But until then, it has no effect. Again, I find that with some of these stories, and I did find it with this one here, is that, these kinds of choices where it's like, it doesn't have an effect until I need it to have an effect. I don't particularly like that kind of storytelling. I prefer, well, this is the way things are, and the story is reflected in that. So if it doesn't work with your story, then change your story. Don't change the nature of your laws of your world, because it makes it inconsistent, and there's just really, not only is it a pinball time machine, it's a pinball version of storytelling. This is important now, but it's not important later. This bit of physics, it applies today, but it doesn't apply tomorrow. Whatever. So, I know, it does sound like I'm there. We are more Council of Dooms. That I'm really down on this 16 issue series, and I'm not. It was light. It was light. It's all right. I'll keep it because it's part of the Fantastic Four. This was the finale with a nice little everybody on the cover type of thing, and the final issue. So 16 issues, it's all right. It's dollar bin material, maybe $2. That's where a lot of mine was, $2. But there's really nothing special about this. It's not the worst Fantastic Four you're going to read. It's not the best Fantastic, not best by a large margin, that you're going to read. Uh, and as I say, I've grown a little tired of time travel, alternate future versions of characters, the multiverse, the councils of. And this was just, had all of those things, and it's like, you know what? I'm tired of reading these stories. Can you give me something a little bit different? But it's just a casual read. I'll forget it by tomorrow type of thing. Um, it's all right. So that's what I got to say about Fantastic Four Volume number 4. We'll go into Volume number 5 next time. Until then, be good to yourself and be good to others, and we'll talk again soon.